Hey everybody, it's C98260 and today I'm going to be doing a very special commemorative video celebrating exactly 1 year after I finished Uncharted 3 story mode, which is, well, it's going to be today, the 25th of January. So, to sort of celebrate it, I thought, what could I do? And I thought about maybe I could just explain to you guys sort of how I got involved with the Uncharted franchise, what made me buy the game, my thoughts on certain chapters and stuff like that. So, I'm going to go ahead and jump right in with Uncharted Drake's Fortune. So Uncharted Drake's Fortune was the very first game I played in the series, and I don't personally remember seeing any adverts for it, but I remember my mum was going on about how it looked much like a game that me and her used to play on the old Xbox, which was Indiana Jones and the Emperor's Tomb. It's very similar kind of themes through both in terms of get artifacts in each level and kind of treasures and stuff. So that's what persuaded her to go out and buy. I personally didn't really have much of an interest in it, but as soon as I started putting the disc and started playing it, I just fell in love with it. The first chapter in that game was, it just instantly puts you in with the story, just in with the action and just draws you in. And then I remember getting to the third chapter or so, and something sort of came up where I sort of got the Nintendo Wii on that day. So I sort of went more onto playing that than continuing with Uncharted. So that's probably the game I've had the longest break in between playing. It's probably definitely lasted a couple of years between, just getting to chapter 3 and then stopping and then resuming it. I just really randomly felt like playing that game again, so I just broke it out, loaded it up, and just got on with it. And I just, fell in love with the story, with the characters, and the setting and the scenery. It was just a fantastic game. I just enjoyed playing, and sort of disappointed that I didn't really play it all once I first got it, so a little immersion lost from that. But I probably restarted it from chapter 1 and carried on from that. But it's just a great game. That one is one of the, it's very actually rare to come across apparently the original copies of the game, the ones that aren't platinum copies, because it's sold so many copies apparently that it's extremely common that you'll find a platinum copy of it in a shop. So if you do have a version like I have with the the see-through kind of packaging on it, not the platinum version, then think yourself lucky. But yeah, that's one of my favorite chapters in that is probably when we discovered the Descendants, which the zombie-esque things. That really just was a huge surprise to me. The whole game was completely blind to me, so I just loved that. And this really just brought something else to the game. It really brought something else to the series, I could say, because this was reiterated in Uncharted 2. Not really so much Uncharted 3, but I'll get onto that when I come onto it. So that was probably my favourite chapter there, since it just brought something else to the game. It gave it a whole different edge. You realise it was a whole different sort of plot twist in it, and it just made it so much more interesting and immersive. And this was so much fun to play. It was a little, I don't want to say dated, but a little different to what we're used to now with, the smoother controls, the smoother gunplay and stuff, and generally a bit of a better story, though not so much Uncharted 3, I don't think, but it was definitely one of the first experiences I had on PS3, which really just drew me back onto playing on the PS3, and I just loved playing that game. I can't really say anything else about it. It was just a huge surprise to me, and really a great discovery for me personally. A game and a franchise that really has been with me for the past couple of years now. So you can imagine my delight when I saw the TV advert for Uncharted 2. It was just, my mind was just blown. As soon as I saw it, I think my jaw dropped, and I knew I needed to get that game. So I wasn't following anything on the internet or anything. It was a whole blind game. It was just, I never even knew it was coming out, much like Uncharted 1. So when I got Uncharted 2 and I saw it on the TV, and every time I saw it, I was just like, I have to watch this, I have to play it. And so when I got the game and loaded it up, I was just blown away. I remember feeling at the end, just, I have to play this again, because it wasn't just like a story and you were following it and you were sort of a passive player. You sort of got drew into it, much more of an experience rather than, as I said, the passive gameplay sort of style, if you know what I mean. And I just fell in love with it. I was so addicted to it. I just had to play it sort of every single day. And it's definitely my most played PS3 title. In terms of, just how many times I played it, how many hours I spent on it, I just loved it. Every second of it I loved, and I I cannot explain my love for that game. It is a great game. It's definitely the best title on PS3 by far. Even though I don't really have that many PS3 games per se, it's definitely out of the bunch I have the best. My favourite chapter in that is probably the train chapters. I think it's chapter 16. Can't really remember the name of it, but you'll be seeing some gameplay of it. But that's definitely my favourite chapter, since it combines platforming and also action, and just, you know, a really great deal of programming. And I can't imagine how many hours are spent put into doing that whole chapter and the next one as well, whilst you're on the train going through the mountains. It just blew me away. It was a fantastic game, and I just loved it. I just remember seeing the advert now whilst I'm thinking about it, and I just remember where I was standing in the house, and I just remember knowing that I have to get that game. That is one I have to get. It's just fucking fantastic. It just blew me away. I was just glued to it, just immersed in this amazing experience. Such an innovation and improvement on the previous title that you couldn't not like it. And you know, it's so much smoother. It's so much more. You know, graphically at the time, it was just fantastic. It looked gorgeous. I thought Uncharted 1 looked great when I was playing that, and then as soon as I came onto Uncharted 2, like a couple of years later, whenever I got it, I just was blown away by it. I don't think I've ever really had that experience with a game before. Whilst upon finishing it, I've wanted to start it again straight away. It was just, without it seeming like a chore as well, because, you know, people sometimes, you know, restart it deliberately just to go for trophies. At that stage, I just couldn't care for the trophies. I was just amazed by this amazing work of art. It deserves all those awards it gets, and you know, it thoroughly deserved them. And it obviously, you know, did include the multiplayer, which I won't really go into so much because it's not really that much of an impact to me. It was definitely my first title that I played online, my first PS3, PSN online experience. I never really cared or had, you know, the PSN online interest before, so when I was just reading the back and I knew it sort of had multiplayer, you know, after a while I, you know, loaded it up, and I remember my first match in it. I was on a village, I was as Chloe, and I remember getting the first kill, and I think my exact words were something like, "Oh, first fucking match, first fucking kill," and I was just laughing. I was just really enjoying it, and I think it was a great addition to what they did with the franchise at that time. You know, maybe, you know, people will. I don't really want to start doing the comparison between Uncharted 2 and Uncharted 3 kind of stuff, because I don't want to go into it. But I'm much more of a story mode kind of person, for those who don't know. But the game itself was just my favourite. It was just great. I just can't really explain my love for it. So you can imagine my excitement and anticipation for when I heard of Uncharted 3. This was probably the game I knew most about before. Was definitely the game I knew most about before purchasing it or getting it. I remember seeing all the adverts from E3 from it, or trailers I mean. My most anticipated title of 2011, and I was just so looking forward to playing it. And then I sort of, when I got it, I was just like, oh, this is going to be, you know, this has got a lot to live up to. You can't really improve upon perfection, can you? Because Uncharted 2 was pretty much perfect, so I thought, you know, this probably has to be better. So upon loading it and, you know, playing through it, and upon completing it, which was, I said, exactly a year ago today, I, you know, admittedly was disappointed. It didn't live up to the expectation that I had for it, and possibly because I knew more about it, I wasn't really blown away by most of the stuff that was in it. I mean, the chapters that involve you with Ramses, they're probably my most favourite, because I knew nothing about them. I've only seen sort of Ramses in the trailer before. I knew nothing about his story, his involvement, or those kind of sea warfare kind of chapters, or sea welfare, if you want to say. I don't really know the word to call it, but they're probably my favourite chapters in it. And the graphics I really did like. They're probably the best I've seen on the PS3 so far. I haven't played Crysis 3 yet, and I believe that game maxes the system, so I've probably got more to see. But whilst I was playing this game, I was just getting gradually sort of more and more disappointed, because I was expecting a game that was more of more chapters than 26, which was what Uncharted 2 had. I was expecting maybe 28 chapters, and then so I was thinking, oh well, I can play a little longer, so I'm expecting that there are this many chapters. But when I sort of found out that there are 22 chapters, and I was sort of at the chapter 16 mark, or chapter 18 even, I was sort of, you know, well, I spent, you know, £40 on a game that I was anticipating to be better than it actually is. You know, I think alarm bells should have started ringing when I learnt of the fact that they were bringing back the mechanics from Uncharted 1 with the gun mechanics or whatever. I wasn't, too keen on that. I don't think I really came across it before I got the game. I think when I started getting into the multiplayer, I learned of that by looking around online, because it just didn't really feel like an Uncharted game. It had the epic set pieces, but it just felt more patchwork. It felt, if you imagine like bits of fabric, different bits of fabric, just being sewn together, different ideas on each sheet. It's kind of like that to me. You've got the spiders, which just don't really fit in at all. Well, they kind of do, but it doesn't really make any sense why they're there. Nothing's ever explained in it. It just felt, I hate to say it, but it felt a bit rushed. It just felt inconsistent with what I was expecting, and I think a majority of the community was expecting. As I said, I'm a big story mode person. I was expecting to be playing that over and over and over, but I inevitably haven't. I've only played it, well, I've got the platinum trophy for it. I'm not trying to brag or anything, but there's nothing really there that wants to make me play it again. I mean, there are chapters in every game that people do dread playing, particularly for me in Uncharted 2, the mountaineering kind of chapter where you have to do all the stuff in the ice caverns and stuff. That doesn't really appeal to me. I also know my friend who does that kind of stuff, he enjoys all of that. And also, we were playing along at the same time. We both finished it on the same day, me and Charlie from, I always refer to him as Charlie from the Dual Comms, so... but, it was just what didn't really live up to my expectations and what many people had as an expectation. It's just, even the Atlantis of the Sands itself, it's kind of doesn't make sense, because the way I think about it, if they know where it's located in the desert, they say, oh, is it the center of the Rubal Khali Desert? So then why can't you just fly over it and look down? Because even though there's like a sandstorm around it or whatever we found out whilst playing it, once you're actually in it, the City of Brass, and you look up, you can see the sky. So why can't planes just be flying over and looking down? I mean, if they have a plane flying over dropping supplies, then they probably should have seen this fucking massive dust cloud way off in the distance. And when you're actually in City of Brass, it's nothing like Shambhala or anything. I felt that was too similar. I didn't really like that. I felt that the similarities between it and Uncharted 2 in terms of the overall treasure you're going for was disappointing, though. There's so much potential with the City of Brass that you just don't get. You just do not get to explore it, and that's something that you look out when you first enter the building, the whole area of it, and you look around, you survey the surroundings, and you think, wow, this is a pretty massive place, so I'm going to be doing a lot of exploring. But no, you just go down some stairs into a room, drink some water, and have an hallucination, which just doesn't make sense. The water is infected, yet the djinn things that are in your head, and then you sort of end up going the correct way throughout all this place whilst being mentally retarded, basically, and you somehow stumble across the correct path to exactly where Talbot and Marlowe are going, and all of that kind of stuff. All of the more simple things that should really be explained or really thought about weren't explained properly, and it just felt, as I said, patchy. That's sort of been a little recap of sort of my theories or my involvement with the Uncharted franchise. I shall see you all in the next video. Goodbye.